What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we are finally checking out the brand new Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. Now, if you're like me, you've been eagerly awaiting the release of this phone. It was probably supposed to come out sometime last year. It didn't, for whatever reason, but we have it now, and it's of course the successor to the S20 FE, which I still recommend as a great affordable device with plenty of flagship features. This new S21 FE is a similar story. It once again packs a ton of high-end specs and capabilities taken from the flagship S21, tosses in a couple compromises to keep the price down, and in the end gives you a really well-rounded device without that four-figure flagship price. I'm of course going to go over everything you need to know about the new S21 FE in this video, but first things first, let's just quickly unbox it, and I'll show you what all comes inside the package when you buy one. And honestly, I think you can just guess by looking at it, there's not much included at all. The super slim box packs the phone itself, of course, right on top. I got mine in the navy blue color, which looks really nice. There's white, black, purple, and olive green options to choose from as well. And the only other thing you get here is a small packet with the SIM ejector tool fastened to the outside. And inside the packet, you'll find a USB-C cable and instruction manual. That's it. No wall plug, no earbuds, no other accessories included. And this follows suit with Samsung's minimal packaging that they've offered now on all their recent high-end phones. So with all that stuff out of the way, here is the new S21 FE once again. And at first glance, I think this phone does look a lot like the flagship S21. It's closer than the S20 FE was to its flagship counterpart for sure. And by the way, I will have some dedicated comparisons between the flagship S21 and this phone and last year's S20 FE as well. So look out for all of those videos in the coming days. But for now, let's focus on everything this new S21 FE has to offer. Now, first and foremost, I want to just quickly go over pricing with this phone, because if you're seriously considering getting one right now, you can take advantage of some deals and add-ons that might make it even more enticing. So the full retail price for the new S21 FE is $699. That's for the 128GB model. For $799, you can double the storage to 256 gigs, but most retailers have some sort of launch deal going for this phone. Samsung will give you either $100 of additional credit towards an accessory, or free Galaxy Buds Live, or a huge discount on the Buds Pro if you buy the phone from them. Best Buy offers a $100 gift card with the purchase of the phone right now, and Amazon will also give you a $100 gift card. So if you factor in those potential deals, you can recoup some of the cost for sure, or get some free accessories for your new phone. And I'll be sure to leave those deals linked down below in the video description if you want to take advantage of them. Physically, the S21 FE definitely looks like the flagship version, but size-wise, it actually falls in between the standard S21 and the S21 Plus. It's a 6.4-inch device, that's the screen size, and this time around the display is framed by really minimal bezels all around. You get an 85% screen-to-body ratio, center hole punch camera cutout, and an overall look that's pretty much all screen from top to bottom. In the hand, the phone is actually pretty comfortable. It's not small by any means, but compared to the 6.5 and 6.7-inch smartphones you usually might see, the S21 FE is relatively comfortable. One thing that immediately stands out to me with this new S21 FE is actually the build. This is a very light phone. It's 13 grams, or nearly half an ounce lighter than the S20 FE, and that's thanks in part to its, once again, mostly plastic build and somewhat slimmer profile. The back is that matte finish. It's the same as the flagship S21, the A52, A72, S20 FE, pretty much what we expect from Samsung now, I guess. The sides and frame are all metal, a brushed color matching aluminum with a semi-flat design. All in all, if you were expecting something different with the construction or the design, you're not going to get that here. The phone is IP68 water and dust resistant though, which is good. It also offers 15-watt wireless charging and reverse wireless charging too, so no compromises with those physical traits at least. Taking a look around at everything else, the left side has what appears to be an antenna area there. The right houses your usual volume and power buttons. Down below, this unlocked version of the phone offers dual SIM support. The tray can hold one SIM card on each side, but no SD card support for expandable storage here, unfortunately. Also, at the bottom, of course, is the USB-C port for charging and the downward firing speaker speaker. This phone does have dual stereo speakers with that secondary one in the earpiece at the top, and around back a triple lens camera setup, which I'll go over in just a bit. Speaking of the speakers though, the out loud listening experience on this device sounds pretty good right out of the box. I don't know that there were any improvements or changes over the S20 FE or flagship S21, but you get a good, loud, crisp sound from the dual speaker setup. Underneath the display, the S21 FE does offer a fingerprint sensor, which is great to have. However, it is not the ultrasonic sensor from the flagship S21, but it's still fast and accurate enough for sure. A compromise though, nonetheless, that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. In addition to that, there's face unlock as well, and this is quite quick in getting you into the phone. Now, one of the standout features of the S21 FE, I think, is the viewing experience. And this is something that Samsung did not compromise at all. The nicely sized 6.4-inch screen is a dynamic AMOLED panel with HDR10 Plus support. It's nearly the same setup as the flagship S21 with a 2400 by 1080 resolution and 20 by 9 aspect ratio, packing in some 411 pixels per inch. It's covered in Corning Gorilla Glass Victus as well, and aside from a slightly lower max brightness, I believe this is essentially the top of the line display from the flagship S21. It's bold, it's bright, it's sharp, there's no dimming with off-axis viewing at all, and no matter what it is you're watching, your content is going to look great. I tend to keep things set to Samsung's default vivid color profile. That's what I like best. And with the punchy colors and deep blacks, this is a screen that really gives you more than you bargained for. On top of looking great, it is also a 120Hz high refresh rate panel. So it's of course going to be super smooth, ultra responsive, and give you a fast and fluid feel as you navigate through the phone. The display was one of the top selling points on the S20 FE, and once again, it's a standout feature for this S21 FE. There weren't any major improvements, but I don't think Samsung needed to change anything anyway. This is a viewing experience that's well worth the money. When it comes to the specs and their performance, this is another area where the S21 FE offers a ton of value. Powering this phone is the Snapdragon 888 5G chipset, which for all intents and purposes is the top-of-the-line flagship processor. In addition, you get 6 gigs of RAM, which is less than the 8 gigs on the flagship S21, but still plenty enough to handle everything you throw at it. It of course ships with Android 12, Samsung's One UI 4.0 update, and the November 1st security patch. And obviously this phone is going to be about as fast and as powerful as any upper tier or flagship smartphone you could buy right now. It's going to be able to handle every game, every app, every task you want it to do with ease. And like I said, you are literally getting flagship components without paying the flagship price. That's basically the point of the S21 FE anyway. Also inside is a fairly large 4500 milliamp battery. It's the same size as the S20 FE, slightly larger than the flagship S21, and altogether, I expect this phone to be an all-day device and then some. That's how my S20 FE was anyway. I got really solid battery life out of it, so I do have high expectations for the S21 FE. You get 25 watt fast charge support via the USB port, 50% juice in about 30 minutes, wireless charging, like I said, really no compromises at all with the battery and charging features here. Finally, let's talk cameras. Now, interestingly enough, Samsung actually went with seemingly a better spec selfie camera on this new S21 FE compared to the flagship S21. It's a 32 megapixel shooter now, and while megapixels I realize aren't everything, I actually think this phone snaps some pretty decent selfies, which I'll show you in just a second. Around back, the triple lens rear setup consists of a 12 megapixel main lens, 8 megapixel telephoto, and 12 megapixel ultra wide. And if you're wondering what's missing versus the flagship S21, it's mainly that telephoto lens capability. The flagship had a 64 megapixel telephoto shooter. Still, you'll get 3 times optical zoom and 30 times digital zoom. And when it comes to the rest of the camera modes and features, there's pretty much nothing missing. Portrait video, pro controls, super slow-mo, dual camera recording, it's all there. The FE does max out at 4K 60 for video, so no crazy 8K recording like on the flagship phones, but honestly, this is still a flagship caliber camera setup in mostly every way. And the end results certainly show me that as well. Just snapping a few quick sample pics out of the box, I think this phone does produce some great shots. The selfies look really solid, there's nice skin tones, great detail, everything looks really well balanced and consistent. The rear main lens, of course, looks great too. I don't think that these results are any worse than the flagship S21 at all, and in fact, I look forward to doing a more in-depth comparison because I'm sure they'll look basically the same. All in all, once again, not a whole lot that's gotten taken away here on the S20 FE. And in fact, I'd argue that the camera setup is yet another big selling point for this phone. Now, in breaking down this new S21 FE, I found that it's even closer to its flagship counterpart than the S20 FE was. And that's interesting in one sense because you are getting like 95% of the flagship S21 for technically a cheaper price. However, this phone wound up with just a really poorly timed release date. It's unfortunate. It's no secret the S22 is probably right around the corner, and since the regular flagship S21 has been out for nearly a full year now, you can likely get that phone, the flagship S21, for cheaper than this S21 FE. Taking all of that into consideration, I'm not sure the S21 FE is as enticing as the S20 FE was, but I still think it's a great device as it is, and still will likely wind up being an incredibly good value throughout 2022. But what do you guys think? Is the new S21 FE something you'd consider right now? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys later.